All right, guys. So the Biden administration and the Democrats are getting desperate as Build Back Better is dead for now, thanks to Joe Manchin and Kirsten Sinema. So they've moved on to their next conspiracy theory, right? Which is that our democracy is under attack from the GOP, and the only way to save it is to pass their so-called voting rights legislation, the For the People Act and the John Lewis Voting Rights Act, I believe, are the two bills that they're trying to pass. Now, Republicans have just filibustered it, okay? Because they don't want it. They feel like it is an attempt to federalize our elections, right? To give federal government more control over state elections and how they carry out their elections. Some Republicans have made the argument that this is going to pave the way to let illegal immigrants vote. I'm just saying, these are things that have been said by the right as why they're opposing this stuff, okay? They're making an argument that essentially this is federalizing our elections and that it makes our elections less secure. That's the argument that they're making. So yeah, because of the GOP's opposition to this and them using the filibuster to block any type of movement on this legislation, the Democrats have got desperate as midterms are coming up, and they're basically going to get blown out in the midterms if things stay the same. Now, they're trying to rally their base off the conspiracy that our democracy is under attack and that you need to pass this legislation in order to save our democracy, right? AKA, you need to vote Democrat to save our democracy, right? That's the argument that they're making. So yeah, with that being said, we all know last year that Biden claimed that he was opposed to removing the filibuster, but now all of a sudden, again, they've gotten so desperate that Biden has come out and said that, hey, we need to remove the filibuster in order to pass this legislation. Take a look.
Sadly, the United States Senate, designed to be the world's greatest deliberative body, has been rendered a shell of its former self. It gives me no satisfaction in saying that as an institutionalist, as a man who was honored to serve in the Senate. But as an institutionalist, I believe that the threat to our democracy is so grave that we must find a way to pass these voting rights bills. Debate them, vote, let the majority prevail. And if that bare minimum is blocked, we have no option but to change the Senate rules, including getting rid of the filibuster for this.
The Senate must act. And the bottom line is this. Years from now, our children and our grandchildren, they will ask us about this moment. We cannot tell them that we let a Senate rule stand in the way of our most fundamental freedom. Instead, let us tell them that we stood together as people of conscience and courage.
Senate Republicans have exploited arcane rules to block these bills.
Guys, I find this to be hilarious because first and foremost, the Democrats, this is the same party that when Trump was president basically were responsible for a record-breaking gridlock in Congress, right? In fact, during the 2019 to 2020 congressional term, when the Democrats were in the minority, they filibustered 328 times. From 2017 to 2018, 201 times. From 2015 to 2016, 128 times. Okay? So, if you look at those numbers compared to when the Republicans were in the minority, okay, under the Obama administration, the Democrats out filibustered the Republicans 657 to 540, right? So the Democrats love the filibuster, right? They absolutely love the filibuster. And if you don't believe me, just listen to them talk about how we must preserve the filibuster.
You know, what's more important, I guess, the institutions in the Senate and keeping the filibuster, or I just got to get some stuff done?
So I am open to the discussion, but I would suggest that in addition to the concern about keeping the tradition of the institution, there is a practical concern that I have, which is, were it not in place, they probably would have run roughshod over Planned Parenthood and all that we need around women's access to reproductive health and choice.
Should they end the legislative filibuster if that's what's needed to pass gun reform?
I think we have to make that call on the fly. Ending the filibuster is a very dangerous thing to do because it's been used by progressives our whole time to make sure that we did not get rolled over.
Yesterday's cloture vote, I shared my views on this moment at length, and I will let those comments stand in the record. Now, as I've said repeatedly over the last week and a half, let us go no further down this road. I hope the Republican leader and I can, in the coming months, find a way to build a firewall around the legislative filibuster, which is the most important distinction between the Senate and the House. Without the 60-vote threshold for legislation, the Senate becomes a majoritarian institution like the House, much more subject to the winds of short-term electoral change. No senator would like to see this happen, so let's find a way to further protect the 60-vote rule for legislation.
All right, guys, so as you can see there, right, that's the Democrats basically defending the filibuster. We need the filibuster when Democrats are in the minority. However, when Democrats are in a very, very, very slim majority, they're like, no, we got to get rid of the filibuster. When they literally acknowledged, Chuck Schumer acknowledged that, hey, the filibuster is in place for the exact reason that the Democrats say they're trying to get rid of it right now, right? It's because we don't want a small majority trying to enact legislation that has no long-term support, right? Which is exactly what the Democrats are trying to do, right? That's exactly what they're trying to do. So again, ain't it funny how when, they're in the minority and the filibuster benefits them, oh, it's the greatest thing ever. We love it, right? Prevents the Republicans from doing all types of crazy stuff that we don't want, right? But then once they're in the majority, a very, very slight majority, I mean, not even a real majority, it's a 50-50, okay? Oh, we got to get rid of it, right? Democracy's under attack, right? We have to save democracy. We got to get rid of this arcane, racist relic of the Senate, right? That's how the talking points go. But the sad part about this, guys, is that this is all based off a conspiracy. It just is, right? This is one of the biggest conspiracies in the Democrat Party is that voter ID laws, which are supported by a majority of the American people, right? They somehow discriminate against minorities, okay? It is a conspiracy. I'm telling you guys, the bulk of the research shows that voter ID has very little or no effect on voter turnout, right? This is why every time these people cite this stuff in regards to how this is supposed to be voter suppression, they can never give you a real number, right? They can't give you a real number. They can't give you any statistics, any percentages of people that are actually being stopped from voting because of voter ID laws because they don't have any evidence, right? I'm telling you, okay? In fact, we're gonna look at this study right quick that came from the Government Accountability Office, right? A 2014 review of research on U.S. voter ID laws with a focus on a new study from the GAO that estimates their impact on voter turnout in 2 states that changed their laws between 2008 and the 2012 elections. So let's get down here to the actual voter turnout effects, right? The findings. It says the GAO researchers reviewed 10 rigorous academic studies that looked at how voter ID laws affected voting patterns, concluding that there were mixed results. Of the 10 studies we reviewed, 5 found that state voter ID requirements had no statistically significant effect on voter turnout nationwide, and 5 studies found that changes in voter ID requirements had statistically significant effects on voter turnout. Among the 5 studies that showed statistically significant effects, one of the studies found an increase in voter turnout nationwide of 1.8 percentage points. Wait, so I want you guys to understand. One of the studies, right, that found a statistically significant effect on voter turnout actually found that it increased voter turnout, right? Oh my God. Okay. The other 4 studies that showed statistically significant effects found that voter ID requirements decrease voter turnout and that estimated decreases range from 1.5 to 3.9 percentage points. So I want you guys to understand here. Okay. This is a review of studies. Okay. This is not a study. This is a study of studies, right? Almost like a meta-analysis. Okay. It says 6 out of 10 of the studies they reviewed, right, in regards to the effect of voter ID on turnout, actually show either no effect or an increase in turnout, right? Or in 4 out of 10 show a statistically significant decrease. So again, when these people go out here and they talk about how voter ID laws are racist, okay, and that they suppress voter turnout as if it's fact, they're lying to you. They don't have any real evidence, right? The bulk of the evidence suggests that that's just not true, right? That's just what it is, okay? And I'm gonna tell you, it's so bad, right? This conspiracy is so bad that even the mainstream liberal media, Jake Tapper specifically, is actually calling BS on the fact that the Democrats only really seem to focus on voter ID laws in red states, but not the same voter ID laws and restrictions in blue states. Take a look.
Yeah, it's interesting. I generally, as an American, feel that in addition to guarding against fraud, which there's very little of in the United States, it should be as easy as possible for Americans to vote, because we are the best democratic republic when as many people as possible are represented, no matter who wins, Democrats or Republicans. But going over a lot of these election laws, I went in preparing for today and I saw, you know what? New Jersey doesn't allow ballot harvesting, and that's a Democratic state. Delaware doesn't allow the kind of early voting that a lot of other states do. How come? But then the journalist in me, as well as the cynic, says, well, how come Democrats only complain about the strict voting regulations in red states, in Texas and Georgia, and not in Democratic states like New York?
Well, that's an easy one, Jake. Let me help you out. The reason why is because it's BS, right? Because there's no real evidence that these laws suppress voter turnout, right? And it's all really just a conspiracy. It really is, okay? It's a conspiracy. Listen. Again, if these laws were so oppressive, the Democrats wouldn't have them in their states, right? States are allowed to run their elections the way they want to run their elections. And when the Democrats run their elections the way they want to run their elections, whether that's, banning ballot harvesting or, requiring ID, right, to secure their elections, to make sure their elections have integrity, that's fine, right? Nothing racist about that, okay? Nothing suppressive about that. But all of a sudden, these laws are suppressive when it comes to GOP in red states, almost if red states don't have the right to try to fortify their election laws and to protect the integrity of their elections. Only Democrats have the right to do that, okay? But the truth of the matter is that these things are not actually suppressive, okay? That's the truth, right? That's why Democrats are simply not concerned about it in their own states, okay? They're not. Right. Now, I didn't play the part with the lady up there from Delaware responding to Jake Tapper, basically calling out her own state on the BS in regards to their voting laws, because she didn't address it, right? Because she doesn't have an answer for it. None of them have an answer for it. They don't have any facts. They don't have any statistics to support any of the things they're saying. They simply just say them, and they shout at the top of their lungs that democracy's under attack. And there are people that fall for it and get brainwashed that this is actually a thing, right? And then they go out here and they go on hunger strikes because of it, right? Referencing the story that I covered yesterday about the Arizona students that are going on a hunger strike because they feel like their right to vote is under attack. And there's literally no evidence to suggest that that's actually the case, okay? No evidence suggests that's actually the case. But, hey, it is what it is. Democrats are getting desperate. They're going to try to overturn this filibuster, right, which is going to set a precedent that they're not going to like, because when GOP takes back the House and the Senate, all of a sudden GOP is going to be saying we need federal regulations on abortion, right? That's what they're going to be doing, okay? And the Democrats going to cry at the top of their lungs about how we need the filibuster, right? But they're not really in a position to get rid of the filibuster anyways, because Joe Manchin, Kyrsten Sinema is not going to let it happen, right? So, I mean, the Democrats really at this point, it's just hilarious to see their desperation, because nothing's going to come of it. They're not going to be able to get rid of it. And if they were able to get rid of it, it's not going to have the effect that they think it's going to have, right? Short term, it might benefit them. For long term, it's not, okay? But let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.